Welcome back. Thank you for joining me again. I'm Nadia. I am a physical therapist and I specialize in the treatment of pelvic floor health and lymphedema. I started off this series, we're talking about 8 reasons the pelvic floor becomes weak. I thought this was just going to be a tiny little video, or tiny little podcast, my apologies. And it's turning out to be a little bit longer. I think I've gotten to be a little bit chatty, but stick with me because I feel like our pelvic floor, it is really a very integral part of our everyday life, and we're not really aware of it. We become very aware when it's not working well, but there are a lot of things that we do on a daily basis that can continuously help to support our pelvic health and help us to live a long, healthy life, having all the great functions that our pelvic floor provides for us. So this is, I think, part 3 of that series. And we are going to start off with number 4. So far, let's do a little recap. One of the first things that I've listed as what I think is the primary cause of pelvic floor weakness, and also a lot of other health issues that we face, is our diet. So go ahead and try to get back to the previous podcast that covered that. But diet is really one of those key things that really affects our overall health and function. Number 2 was toileting habits, potty mechanics, the way we use the toilet, and the habits that we develop in terms of needing to go to the bathroom or when we do go to the bathroom. Number 3 was body mechanics, the way we use our body overall. Because one of the key things that I want to emphasize is your pelvic floor is integrated into everything you do. And so being aware of the body mechanics that can cause weakness in your pelvic floor is super important. So we are here for today's topic, which is number 4 on the list of things that causes pelvic floor weakness, and that is carrying excessive weight. And so the word we have for that is obesity. I know there are a lot of concerns and challenges right now about body positivity and all that stuff. And if you notice, the word I said is carrying too much weight. And so it's very important for us to realize that having too much excess fat, because that's usually where the problem is, carrying too much fat on our body can put a significant strain on our overall structure. It can also put a significant strain on our overall health because it taxes our body so much more. And in the case of pelvic health, one of the main concerns is abdominal fat. Because a lot of times when we carry excess weight, we carry it in our stomachs. And so that excess fat that is in your stomach, remember, your pelvic floor is what sits at the bottom of your pelvis, and it supports all of your internal structures and organs. So when you have that extra fat or extra weight sitting on your pelvic floor, it becomes tired, it becomes strained. And so carrying excess weight on our bodies is one of the ways that we tend to hurt our pelvic floor by making it weaker, because it has to work so much harder to carry this extra weight. Next on our list, number 5, which most people would think is the one thing, the main thing that causes pelvic floor weakness, that's birthing. So yes, in a lot of cases, that's where the majority of pelvic floor dysfunction is identified, through birthing, but it is by no means the only source. And so we have to recognize it, because giving birth, honestly, it's a real challenge. I mean, all praise be to anyone who has ever had a child. It is truly a very challenging experience for your body to go through. It is like running a marathon. It's like you woke up one day and you decide, oh, you know what? Today I'm going to go run a marathon. It is extremely taxing on your body. And so there's a lot of things that your body goes through in the process of birthing. So at that point where you're delivering, but also through that process of carrying that baby, that 9 months of carrying that baby, there's a lot of changes that your body goes through. Your posture changes. The way your muscles and joints function changes. Your hormones change. I mean, it is just a miracle. It's amazing what the body goes through in order to carry a child and to give birth to a child. So it really is a miracle that we're able to give birth vaginally and be successful at it. But in some cases, there is injury. So sometimes you might have a tear. So that's where you have 4 levels of tears. So depending on what is torn, they give you a grade for it. So there's grade 1 to grade 4 tears, and that is a direct insult or direct injury to the pelvic floor muscles. So grade 1 might be just a tear through the skin. Grade 2 is through the skin and the muscle tissue. And then grade 3 and 4 continues to go deeper into the muscle tissue. And so tears from birthing, that is a significant injury to the pelvic floor that can lead to weakness. And a lot of times, depending on how severe the tear is, there is a surgical repair that is done. And in that can cause changes to how those pelvic floor muscles function. Back to the fact that your pelvic floor has to stretch significantly to give birth vaginally. And it's just like any other muscle. If you overstretch it, there is going to be, yes, it does snap back. People always have that conversation like, well, does it snap back? It does. But honestly, it's just like any other muscle. If you stretch or strain a muscle, there takes some conscious effort to really get that muscle back in tone and also to get it back functioning optimally. So honestly, my belief is anyone who goes through birthing really should follow up with a pelvic floor therapist afterwards, just to kind of give them some ideas and some cues on what to do to make sure that things do snap back, and also to make sure that there aren't any pelvic floor dysfunctions that have happened because of giving birth. Where am I? I feel like I've gone off track. Oh, all right. So not just vaginal birthing. So I also want you to know that having a C-section can also contribute to pelvic floor dysfunctions. So I mentioned tearing through the vagina when you're having a vaginal birth. A C-section pretty much is the same thing. Your body can't tell the difference between an injury in terms of a tear versus an intentional surgical incision. Your body reacts the same way. And so a lot of times for C-sections, you can have what we call muscle inhibition, where the muscles in that area, they shut down. Whenever your body is injured, you tend to have muscles shut down because it wants to minimize the movement in that area. It wants to minimize any risk of further damage. And so sometimes with a C-section, you might have inhibition of your abdominal muscles. You might have inhibition of your back muscles and inhibition of your pelvic floor muscles, even though they were not actively involved in giving birth at that time. And so even if you've had a C-section, I also recommend following up with a pelvic floor therapist after giving birth, just to make sure that everything is coordinating and firing, and that you have an awareness of how all of that works. Because honestly, nobody tells us. We have no idea what's going on down there. Sometimes we know, okay, something's not right, but we don't know what to do. And so it's really important to gain that knowledge so that we can, again, get back to optimal health as we care for our children and as we prepare potentially for further children. All right, so we talked about excess weight, we talked about birthing, and let's talk now about lifestyle. Actually, you know what? We're going to talk about lifestyle on the next one, because this really, I think this deserves a whole session for itself, because even this, people don't realize how much their state of mind affects their pelvic floor. It truly is a mind-body connection. And so I'm going to cut this off here. This is going to be the end of this podcast. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me and sending me all your feedback and letting me know how you feel about these podcasts. Do me a favor, make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're giving it a thumbs up or a star rating. 5 stars would be preferred, of course. But, just give it an honest star rating and a review, because that's the way these podcasts are distributed and given out so that more people can hear it. Because I really think this is important information that really should be shared. We don't talk about this enough. And because we don't, there's so many people that go through challenges that they really don't have to. And sometimes, in many cases, it's a very easy fix. So make sure you give a thumbs up. Also, I have my YouTube channel, DTPT Wellness. So go on over there if you're a visual person to have a look at the videos. I cover the same topics, but in a little different way. So if you like the visual aspect, go on over there and look at the videos. Subscribe, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment. Thank you so much for your support and for listening in. So until next time, love yourself, love others, and always bring kindness to the world. And I will see you, or I will talk to you on the next one. Bye-bye.